You're listening to Monday Matters, a Principal Matters podcast production.
Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, along with my co-host, Dr. Jen Schwanke, for another Monday Matters as we step into a new week. And if you're listening for the first time, please check out our flagship shows on Wednesday and our encore episodes on Friday. Jen, as you know, Monday Matters is our opportunity just to stay up to date with listeners and then talk about things that we're both learning. And by the time this recording comes out, you will have already returned from the National School Boards Association. Talk a little bit about some of the work that you guys are going to be sharing, because I'm just so excited for listeners to hear a little bit about the innovation you guys have been doing in Dublin.
Yeah. We're my colleagues and I, my superintendent, our executive director of student services, and our school board is all going to Atlanta to present on what we call the social worker cohort. And it's really exciting and kind of groundbreaking and absolutely the brainchild of our superintendent. And what we did is find a way to partner with a local university, and we had an application process for teachers who wanted to get a master's in social work. And our promise to them after that master's in social work was that they would get a job as a social worker in our district. And so it's really exciting because we'll have about 25 graduates in a few months, and they will be real live, well paid. And by well paid, I mean they're on the teacher salary schedule. Members of our staff of our schools, and they will have the classroom experience that's so critical for, our listeners know, guidance counselors and social workers who have experience in the classroom is really critical in kind of understanding the school-based interventions that are best put in place. So we're really excited about that, and we're going to present to the National School Boards Association. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh. So let me ask a couple of questions. So these are going to be, by the way, congratulations on such a wonderful idea, because I remember and I know I'm speaking to every listener out there, whenever you are in a situation and you need help and you've brought someone in from outside the school, it's a gamble sometimes that you're going to get someone who really understands what's going on within the school context, or sometimes you get someone who's clueless as to what's going on. And then you're stuck because you're like, oh, this is not the resource I needed. And so you guys are growing in-house. The people that you know are going to have the qualifications and the trainings, but also the educational background to service you right there within each school community.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We had contracted with an outside organization for social work help prior to this program. And the problem is social workers are always good-hearted, generous souls who want to help. But the system is set up where they don't make very much money. And so they're very transient. They didn't stay long. And some of them were very young, which is such an asset in some settings. But, especially in situations where there might be problems a student is facing at home, tricky adults at home, tricky conversations with teachers about how to support a child. So that social work model that we had was exactly as you said. Sometimes it was amazing. Other times it wasn't at all. We didn't even know who was going to show up on any given day. So what this program takes is people who were seasoned teachers who were just looking for something else. They didn't want to leave education, but they wanted to contribute in a different way. And so we had an application process. We had over 100 applicants actually, and the 25 that were chosen then jumped into this master's program, and it was rigorous. They had class a couple times a week for an entire year. And then the second year, which is the year we're in now, they are doing their internship within a building. And again, these are people who have worked in the district for quite some time. And so they know it, they know the community. And they also had a lot of time together as a cohort. They spent hours and hours together kind of sharing what they were learning. And then next year there will be a social worker assigned at every building. And the neat thing for these folks is they weren't taken off the salary schedule. They're making what they, if you're a 25-year teacher, you're not going to walk away from being at that point on the salary schedule. So they're still there. And, there's some criticisms to the program. We had some folks say that Um, School is for reading and writing and arithmetic. It's not for social emotional support. We just were seeing too many incidences where the reading, writing, and arithmetic weren't accessible because of the things involved in their lives that a social worker can absolutely address.
I'm so grateful that you
Right.
guys thought about the needs of your community and you thought about how to serve the need in a way that wasn't being met and then found a way to do it generously, but also with fidelity. And so
Right.
kudos, Jen. I'm so excited
Right.
for you guys. And I know that people that get to listen to your session in Atlanta are going to grow from this. But if you're listening to this, Principal Mentors listeners, and you want more feedback from Jen on how this program
Right.
would work, Jen, I know they can reach out to you too.
Absolutely, they can. And again, the root of it was my superintendent, Dr. John Marshausen, and he just believed in this very much. And he, I was the one in the room saying, "Can we really do this? I don't know. It's never been done before."
Yeah.
But he believed in it so much that he said, "Hey, not only are we doing this, but I'm going to dedicate." Our Department of Student Services, they're going to oversee it because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of support and mentoring and helping people understand our vision. So I can take exactly zero credit, but I can say that I'm excited to watch it be implemented.
Oh, that is exciting. Well, in my world with Principal Matters, at least at the time of this recording next week, I have it's a whirlwind of events happening in April. I have 7 trainings, all of them virtual, Jen. So you know how crazy that's going to be with me jumping in and out of
Right.
those moments. But I did get a little bit of time off around our spring break, quote unquote, to do some hiking in North Carolina with a good friend of mine, Frederick Buskey, who has a podcast called the Assistant Principals Podcast, and just got to spend some time with family. So it was wonderful
That's
to do
good.
that. But we just released my new book, Whose Permission Are You Waiting For? An Educator's Guide to Doing What You Love. And I wanted just to give, in the remaining minutes that we have here for Monday Matters, I wanted just to give listeners an opportunity to hear a little bit about the the background for this book, why this is something that I've shared with the world. And someone asked me that question, I don't know, months ago, like, how would you summarize why you wrote this book? And isn't it funny, Jen, how you can work on a book, you can write hundreds and hundreds of pages, but then trying to summarize why you wrote the book can be
Right.
so hard. And so I'm not sure if this is the best explanation, but this is the best I have right now, which is I have spent the last several years coaching a lot of leaders. And when I say high achieving, high performing leaders, I mean it. I mean people that I think are just incredible at their work. And even though, and I'm speaking directly to listeners right now, even though you are incredible at your work, sometimes you run into situations where you need to get out of your own head and you need someone else to give you feedback. And so, as I have found myself giving feedback to leaders, I have found myself coming back to consistent themes over and over and over again. And so when I sat down to write this book, I sat down to write what are the consistent themes that I keep sharing with leaders. And it turned into 20 chapters, Jen, because
Right.
it wasn't just one chapter. It wasn't just one, it wasn't just one sitting. It was like this is more than just a let me write an essay. This is let me write the book because I think it's such an important place to start. So this book is broken into 20 chapters on purpose because what I've tried to do is give listeners the opportunity to kind of walk through understanding pathways, avoiding the binary, understanding the power of curiosity and inquiry, the value of consistency, learning how to beta test,
Hmm.
giving themselves permission and not waiting for someone to give them permission to do that next thing that they love. I get really specific. Let's talk about money and education, which I've not sat through a lot of PD or read a lot of books where let's just talk about money when it
Right.
comes to our incomes. Building systems that produce the outcomes we want, cycles of reflection that I have learned to use and have watched others use, the value of coaching, the value of masterminds, the power of what I call liturgies of life, reminders on where your greatest joy is found, and it's not where you think usually, the power of mentorship, multiplying your imaginations, backward mapping, scaling your influence, pitching yourself, showcasing your profile, and then applying all of these cycles to the way you do work in life. So that's such a mouthful. It pains me to even read that out loud because I realize like that sounds like an impossible task to do in a book, but it begins with stories. And let me pause for a second because I can see your wheels turning.
Right. Well, it does sound like a mouthful, but as a reader of the book, I would say it's not because it is chunked by the chapters and by topics. So, I didn't when you had me read an early version of the book, and I didn't sit down at page 1 and, emerge 8 hours later having finished 20 chapters. I read it in the chunks as you intended it, probably exactly how you wrote it. So, it doesn't feel like an entire manifesto on how to become a better person and leader. Instead, it feels like manageable chunks.
Well, thank you. I'm a storyteller. So if someone's looking for directions and prescriptions, I don't shy away from examples. I don't shy away from giving some suggestions. I don't shy away from advice, but I really try to also just kind of present the variety. So let me give you a quick example before we wrap up. And this is something I talk about in the preface of the book, Jen, which is 3 different people who called me on the same day. All right. So one day I had a call from Wendy, who was interviewing for an opening as an assistant principal at a public high school. She had a solid track record and success as a teacher and a coach, but she was overwhelmed with the unknowns involved in a committee interview. And she wanted help thinking through the possible questions that she would be answering. What should she do as she prepares herself for this next big move and the possibility of sitting in front of a group of people in an interview in a way she hadn't before? And then the same day, my friend Ted calls, and I'm not using the real names here, but Ted calls, and he's the principal of a charter school in a large city, and he feels trapped because there's unrealistic expectations between his sponsoring organization and his school board on the day-to-day operations, and he's being asked to choose opposing priorities between these separate groups, both to whom he's accountable. What should I do? And then there's Marcia, who calls later in the day, and she's a central office director, and she's from a religious private school, and in this organization, they're searching for a new visionary leader, and but she feels unable to move forward because she has an emotionally absent leader at the top of her organization at the time, and without that strong leadership, she's not sure this is where she should stay or how she can influence the lack of movement that she's seeing. And so how does she move forward with teachers and staff and leaders when she doesn't feel unified around a shared vision? What should she do? And so Jen, I'm just stopping there because this is exactly what this is what we do every time we meet and every time we talk and every time someone sends us a question, which is the work of leadership is complex. And there's no quick fix to these answers, which is why I try to invite leaders and listeners and readers into let's have a conversation about how to think about all these different variables that are in front of you, knowing that you're never going to do it perfectly, but there is some ways that can be helpful in the way that we unpack these really hard scenarios.
Well, and I think a mistake that I made early in my career as administrator is I thought there was a right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, there's not. I think if the story you just told, depending on the school, the community, the people involved, all the factors, the the correct resolution or the correct course of action might have 10, 20, 30 different tributaries off it. And then you can never count on the response of the people that are involved. So there is no right answer. The right answer comes in, as you said, Will, reading about it, talking about it, thinking about it, and getting other people's perspectives.
Yeah. So Principal Matters listeners, if you are someone who's consistently grappling with what do I do next? How do I know I'm making the right decision? What pros and cons do I need to consider as I look at this complex scenario? This is the book for you.
Right.
Not because it's the answer, but because it's an invitation through both the painful experiences that I've had, Jen, but also the growing experiences that I've had. It's an invitation to take a walk together. And that's why this book I've tried to set it up as let's just take a walk together and let's talk about these things, because I have found when I have someone on the other side of my thinking, sometimes I get more clarity. So,
when readers open the book, the preface title, "Will You Take a Walk with Me?" Takes it through all of the other 20 topics.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up there, because I just am so grateful, Jen, for the collaboration. Good luck on your presentation that's coming up. I know by the time this comes out, you'll have already returned. Right. And Principal Matters listeners, for those of you that are in some of my masterminds or academies, you'll be a part of the 7 trainings that I've already mentioned at the beginning of the show. But Jen, thank you. And Principal Matters listeners, as you step into your week, thank you for the commitments that you're making to your school communities, for finding innovative ways to respond, for just really sitting on those hard questions, because what you do matters. And we look forward to talking to you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Monday Matters.